This segment is called Passenger Experience, Cabin Interiors in In-Flight Connectivity. This session will cover the latest advancements in Satcom systems and in-flight entertainment, revolutionizing the passenger experience. It will also cover the latest trends in cabin interiors. This session will be moderated by Molly McMillan. Molly is the managing editor of business aviation for the Aviation Week Network. She's also the editor-in-chief of the Weekly of Business Aviation and Aviation Week Market Intelligence Report. She is a stalwart of journalism. Molly is based in Wichita and has many years of experience covering aviation. It's an absolute pleasure, Molly, to welcome you here today to moderate this session. Thank you.
Well, welcome everyone. We're really glad that you're here, and we have certainly the world's top folks in this area, so I'm delighted to be here with them. I'd like to introduce them to you. First is Adam Stewart. He is head of sales at IDAIR.
That's correct.
He brings 20 years of expertise in in-flight and entertainment and connectivity and cabin management systems. Next is Fabian Nagel, Vice President of Sales at Lufthansa Technik, who oversees bespoke VIP and special missions aircraft completions. Thanks for being here. And next is James Person, who leads OEM business development at Viasat, specializing in satellite connectivity for business and VVIP aviation. So thanks for being here. And we have Tim Zhu, Sales Director APAC at Honeywell Aerospace, which drives aircraft connectivity solutions across the region. And last but not least, can't quite see you down there, Tom Phillips, Regional Director APAC at Gogo Satcom Direct, who leads sales and business development across the region. I've asked each one of them just to spend just a quick couple of minutes telling you what their individual businesses do in this space so you get to know them a little bit better. And then we'll talk about the market and a lot of things that are on the list. So anyway, without further ado, I'll turn it over.
Thank you, Molly. So as Molly kindly said, my name is Adam Stewart. I'm the head of sales for IDAIR. We are a wholly owned subsidiary of Lufthansa Technik, and we provide IFE, and CMS solutions to VVIP head of state aircraft, so predominantly narrow body, wide body platforms. And we are an integrator of technology, so we are able to reach out into the market and pull together holistic solutions based on the best products available at the time relative to customer requirements. Okay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Lufthansa Technik is based in Hamburg. It's a global MRO, maintenance, repair, and overhaul organization. We pride ourselves servicing around 5,000 aircraft in the world with power by the hour programs and engine programs. And we are a global MRO. Out of these 25,000, there's roughly 1,500 people, very dedicated, specialized, who are only working in Hamburg on outfitting VIP cabins and servicing VIP head of state and special mission aircraft all over the world. So we're a nose-to-tail provider for flying palaces, anything for the interior sides, bespoke, high level of elegance, aircraft, Boeing and Airbus sizes.
Thanks, Molly, and hello, everybody. Yeah, I'm James Person with Viasat. We're a California-based company, about 7,000 people. We operate globally. Many of you have heard of Inmarsat. A few years ago, we acquired Inmarsat. And we serve many different markets, including government, military, aviation, commercial airlines around the world, including within the US, American, JetBlue, Delta, United, Southwest, and others. But what I'm here for, with my colleague Arno, who's standing in the back, we're here obviously representing business aviation. And we build our own satellites, and we provide high-speed, satellite-based cabin connectivity, primarily through our partners, through Tim and Tom's companies you'll hear about in a moment, and also through Collins, who's here as well.
Thanks, Molly. This is Tim from Honeywell. Hello, everyone. We are Honeywell. We are aviation OEM as well as service provider. So virtually on every airplane, you can find Honeywell product or services. So we're quite I'm based out of Hong Kong. We're headquartered in Phoenix, a global 500 company. Great to be here. Thanks.
Thanks, Tim. Yeah, Tom Phillips from Gogo Satcom Direct. I mean, I don't know if many of you know, but Satcom Direct have just been acquired by Gogo. Ultimately, our name is going to be Gogo moving forward. But we provide in-flight connectivity and in-flight entertainment now to BAAFEx, head of state, and military and government entities. You know, that's what we've built our business on, is being the number one in support as well, which I think is hugely important nowadays, especially as the business aviation market starts to grow, and being the only multi-orbit, multi-band connectivity partner in the market today, and one of Viasat's largest resellers. It'll be great to expand further on what we can provide to you as customers.
Great, thank you. Next, I'd like to talk about the market and maybe kind of what you're each seeing in your own spaces in this area, and especially in this Asia Pacific region. So maybe we'll just go the opposite. Tom?
Thanks, Molly. Yeah, so, I mean, we were talking about this a little bit earlier on today about, you know, the increase in aircraft coming into APAC market, but also the huge demand that we started to see with in-flight connectivity and in-flight entertainment being basically a standard now when you purchase aircrafts, secondhand or from the OEMs. But our relationships with the OEMs are hugely important in that as well, and you know, helping us develop STCs and becoming involved with one another and becoming partners in terms of what we do with the hardware. A lot of the time now we're seeing that, you know, without having in-flight connectivity, it's becoming an aircraft on ground. Sorry, it's becoming an AOG situation. So what we've seen as predominantly an in-flight connectivity partner or provider is that we've seen that this is now becoming standard now when customers need that fitted to their aircraft.
Thanks, Tom. Well, there are apparently a lot of things going on in the past few years with COVID. You know, everybody hates to say COVID, but now we're still in this supply chain disruption, and everyone is trying to recover from that. I mean, I can provide a short answer to this one in terms of connectivity, is that I concur with Tom, because nowadays, everybody is kind of want connectivity when they go on board on a business jet. So that's kind of critical and AOG item. And that's why Honeywell has invested so much in service and connectivity business, and we want to be here in the long term.
I would say, Molly, that across Viasat's K-band global networks, we have almost 2,000 business jets connected, and on our L-bands, like Swift broadband service, nearly 5,000. But that's on a global basis. Within Asia, you know, what I'm seeing is a maturing of the market here, and while it's definitely a given, especially on the large cabin, we're seeing super mid cabins become more important in the region, which is good to see. I think it's part of a maturing market, and we're also seeing connectivity being required down to the super mid cabin aircraft as well. So I think that's a good sign for the market and will lead to continued growth.
Yes, we've seen a constant demand for VIP aircraft over the pandemic. It was actually the only business unit was always very busy, also during the entire time. Nevertheless, we see a highly increased demand for 320 and 737 from not only head of states, but also rich individuals, big corporate organizations. They want their own private jetliner. And with this comes a new wave of demand into the market. They're really focused on IFE, IFC, but also things like private gyms, health-related things, sustainable materials to be used. So there's a lot of innovation. So for us, actually, as a global MRO, the VIP business is a strong incubator because there's a lot of technologies which were induced by one certain VIP customer who was willing to put the money on the table, and then later on becomes a business case actually for the commercial airlines. So for us, it's not only a technical niche, but also we really appreciate the input, and so that's why we're also very happy to be here, because we really think there's a need for a business aviation expo like this in Asia, which we haven't had for the last years. So we're very positive.
From an in-flight entertainment perspective, as Tom was alluding to before, connectivity is no longer a nice to have, more of a necessity. So alignment with commercial technology, consumer market experience, cross-platform consistency is key, really. So we are now trying to leverage connectivity to provide the best possible experience for the end customer. That's from both entertainment side and productivity side, so ensuring that high-end users do have the connection capability and the services available to stay productive in the air while also enjoying the best possible experience from a cabin perspective.
Great, thank you. I might ask Tom, Gogo and Satcom recently merged and became one, and what kind of new products or services might customers be seeing now that you're one unit?
Yeah, of course. I mean, the one dreaded word I will say is Starlink. We've had to be very reactive in, you know, combating against them, you know, as an in-flight connectivity provider. But I mean, for us, what that's meant is that with the two new products that we've got coming out that are going to be fuselage mounted, one is HDX, it's half duplex. One's going to be called FDX. Okay, so effectively, what this merger, has allowed us to have now access to is the whole and wider jet market in terms of all of your smaller aircraft, all the way up to your heavy jets, your Airbuses, your BBJs, etc. But now we can provide King Airs and Phenoms and Challengers and things like that with now high-speed data, where otherwise they wouldn't have been able to have access to that, or a very limited service, you know, as it stands today. Now we've currently got, you know, many STCs in progress that should be done, I would say, you know, from anywhere past Q1 and above throughout 2025. So that merger allows us to have basically every single kind of in-flight connectivity option. So from the continental US, you'll have air-to-ground connectivity, which effectively is 5G in the sky, you know, over 3,000 feet. But over the rest of the globe, we'll have multitude of satellite services, like from Viasat, from OneWeb, and, you know, again, we pride ourselves on being an agnostic partner, so that we can kind of work with everybody and effectively, like Adam said, give exactly the customer exactly what it is that they need. So that's what the merger means to us. It gives us access to the wider market, but also brings the best of both worlds together in terms of a hardware and a software and network perspective.
So I'll go to a Slido question, because we quickly got a good couple of questions here. What advancements in in-flight connectivity are you most excited to see implemented? And this kind of goes to, Tom, what you mentioned, but why don't we start with you, Tim, and come this way, and we'll go back to you, Tom.
Yeah, well, thanks for the question. I would largely defer this question to James. And then I would add my two cents to this one, is that nowadays more passengers craving for more, a better optimal passenger experiences, and rightfully so, right? So we have to keep innovating and keep rolling out new stuff that works for the market. And that's why Honeywell, you know, we have partners all over the world in terms of constellation providers, and we try to tailor to each market. Like China, if this coverage in this region is not approved by a certain provider, and then we have to go to that market with a local supplier. So we have to have this sort of mindset to tailor to the market and give our passengers a truly global coverage and consistent internet experience. I think that's kind of important today, because a lot of people talk about fast internet. Fast is good, but does fast mean necessarily better than anyone else? I doubt it, but theoretically they don't need to contradict. But in reality, in today's technology, they kind of do. So, but you know, that's what we keep doing every day in our business, try to deliver optimal passenger experience. Sorry, James.
Yeah, no, you set me up well, Tim, to address that. So out on the ramp here, there's a Vista Global 7500. There's a Dassault Falcon. Both of those are equipped with our JetWave service, and that uses hardware from Honeywell. And we've introduced new plans via our partners that we call JetXP, because in addition to what you were talking about with being global, consistent, and reliable, performance is extremely important. So with the new plans available with existing hardware, so if you already have JetWave service, JetWave hardware, you can take advantage of uncapped speeds now. So greater priority, uncapped speeds, which means easier ability to do everything you want on the aircraft, whether that's streaming video, doing conference calls, everything we do on the ground that we take for granted on the ground, people expect to be able to do that in the air, and that's what we made possible. So that's one of the major advancements. The other, and I guess we'll come back to you later, is new hardware coming, to the market. So that works across all the entire Viasat fleets, whether it came from the legacy Viasat side or from the Inmarsat side. So that's also very exciting.
We as an integrator, not as a provider of hardware ourselves, really appreciate the advancements in technology in the market. Phased array antennas without moving parts, smaller antennas providing less drag, look nicer on the aircraft. There's a lot of big advancements right now, and the improvements in speed, latency, and all that is quite impressive. Nevertheless, we think we need a good transparency because there's a lot of promises in the market. There's very different aspects of each system. They all have pros and cons, and there's still STCs that need to be developed, things that have not been certified yet, but the outlook is really great, and that's why we see this huge focus right now in the market. A lot of customers come to us, have heard something, some said about Starlink, then they realize what the limitations are, then they look at the other programs. So I really can only encourage, get yourselves very well informed, but there's good product in the market, so we are really excited.
As Fabian says, advancements in connectivity systems offers massive benefits from an entertainment perspective. The better the bandwidth, the better the data rates, the better experience we can offer our end customers. I think one of the most exciting opportunities from an entertainment perspective would be integration, to take the connectivity capability into the IFE system and offer associated system services, benefits, within the interactive itself using the hardware provided from the IFE system. So again, just maximizing the ability and maximizing the experience for the end passengers.
Yeah, it's sure easy to get spoiled. I know on the flight here, one of the flights here from Atlanta to Seoul, Korea, before coming to Singapore, the Wi-Fi went out about Alaska, and it was like, oh man. So I can only imagine what private flyers are wanting to do, which leads me to the next question. Do you customize services on the flights depending on how many people are on board or who is on board? And what happens when everybody wants to play games and watch videos and download movies and just really stress out the Wi-Fi? And I'm not sure who wants to, so just raise your hand or something, but who would like to answer that? Thanks.
I can try to take a stab at it. I mean, it's a great question, but it's essentially the same thing whether or not you're on an airplane or whether or not you're at your home. So the scenario here is we have to think about the data pipe that is provided on the airplane or at home. And then given that data pipe, we have to picture how many people we can support at the same time and how many scenarios we need to do we can support at the same time. So with that being said, I would say that it doesn't make any much difference between your home and the airplane, because at today's capacity, it's nearly 20-30 Mbps in Honeywell JetWave system, so which is quite fast in Imagine that, which is really reliable as well. But we have the second part to your question is that we have all kinds of value-added services where we can, filter those information that is not necessary, or we can prioritize passenger VIP networks over the normal passenger networks. So a lot of fancy stuff we can do in the back end to keep the passenger experience optimal. So that's kind of one of the big differentiators that we, Honeywell, are doing today, among our competitions. So that's kind of important as well.
Okay, Fabian, then Tom.
I think that the problem is, that's what we hear from most of our customers, is we used to use the internet all the time, everywhere. And there in the air, we still see myself, if I'm a commercial airliner, I often don't use it because it just annoys the hell out of me. It's slow, it breaks down, the VPN doesn't work. Then my corporate IT has installed some programs which wouldn't work online. In the end, I shut it down. And that's what we hear from the customers as well. In the end, there was a survey and they said availability and speed, data volume. So if it goes slowly, it's not fun. If you're using your games, the customers today want seamless support, meaning they don't want to feel a difference whether in the air or not. And those customers are not the ones that differentiate and really know how to appreciate how much technology development these guys are putting in there. So I think that's still a step we need to go further.
I think one of the key things that we do is, very similar to what Tim does, of course, as well. We prioritize traffic, and one of our key things is having our own data center based in Florida as well. We can go into many different levels of cybersecurity. That's a huge thing now that's becoming a threat to private jet owners and operators. But one of the things that we've looked upon, especially from a chartering perspective, is we have a particular product called Sky Ticket Credit Card as well. So what we can do with that is that, for instance, if we're all flying together, but Molly, you own the aircraft, you've got access to the priority of the network, but we need to pay for that data if we're flying with you. So there's other ways to sort of monetize the priority, if you know what I mean. So we also do that in terms of a different value add that we have with our Satcom direct router and boxes that we have on aircraft. So just another way that we mitigate that risk.
And if I could add one more thing to that, Molly, we're as a network provider, the satellite provider, we've worked with our distribution partners to have custom plans or tailored plans, as you were asking about. So we have regional plans for super mid-cabin aircraft who might only stay in Europe or might only stay in the States. And we have unlimited plans for people who don't want to care about it. Or we have more cost-effective plans, metered plans for people who say, look, I don't fly very much, I'm not going to use very much, I want the lowest cost plan. So we have those kinds of options available through our distribution partners.
Go ahead.
Beyond the actual connectivity availability, typically the experience of the end customers managed by the operational staff on the aircraft, the maintenance, support staff, etc. What we tend to do is we try to offer a level of maintenance and control over our systems so that traffic shaping, kind of like Tom was just describing, we try and provide the ability to offer the best possible experience within a given zone. So if a principal or a family member requires high-speed gaming and there's a number of support staff in a different area of the aircraft, we can manage who has access to that data availability, that bandwidth, and offer that best possible experience to the primary people, so the people that are paying for the aircraft.
Great. So I think, Tom, you mentioned cybersecurity, and there is a question on Slido about that. Is there a greater emphasis on cybersecurity, considering now how many more VIPs are connected, and how do you protect your customers' data, and what is happening in that area?
Okay, so yeah, there's a lot of aircraft, and there's a lot of aircraft that are sort of coming down the line are going to be line fit with our Satcom direct routers and gateways. Okay, so they're going to be line fit in a lot of new aircraft that are coming to market. But effectively, come and see me at the booth, of course. But we've got three main levels. Okay, so we've got the first level is just simple threat detection. We can tell you what we've got rid of. We can tell you what we've blocked. We can go all the way up to level 3. Level 3 is basically in our data center. You have your own server, and we can protect your data that way through a direct VPN. but I mean, in our data center, we have things like, you know, a lot of the military stuff. We have Air Force One server that comes through there because we look after some of their data as well. Obviously, you know, a lot of, James will tell me better, but a lot of the NSA and stuff will look after that as well, no doubt. But yeah, we have that as an option, but it's becoming more and more of a hot topic, I would say. Not just connectivity, not just what's the fastest speed, not just the cost. It's becoming, how is my data protected now whilst I'm in the air? And because no one's, I mean, this sounds a bit, you know, touchy, but no one's safe in terms of their data at the moment. So if we can help with that, you know, that's what we're here to do.
So there's another Slido question. Heard all these terms, GEO, LEO, MEO. What's the demand and where is the market heading? So I'm not sure who wants to take these.
Yeah, I can try. So GEO, LEO, MEO, and some other jargons in this industry, a lot of them, like best efforts, quality service, you know, stuff like that. I mean, at the end of the day, we can just drop all the jargons because it all comes down to the passenger experience. And our passengers don't need to understand all these jargons. So, you know, when we talk about passenger experience, like I mentioned before, we talk about fast internet, which is kind of critical. But also, we would like to add a few other points like global coverage, reliable, and consistent. Like, I can give you an example that, you know, if you have a 30 minutes great internet experience in the cabin, and then followed by a 10 minutes blackout, completely blackout, then I think it's a discount to the first 30 minutes experience, right? So that's, all these elements comes to play. That fast is one critical component, but it's not everything. So that's, you know, what Honeywell is doing with our partners. And to James's point, that we are rolling out our JetWave-X, our next generation product, which is an upgraded version to the Honeywell JetWave KA system, which is very popular worldwide, especially in APAC. So that you will see this new product in second half of 2025. As a matter of fact, Dassault just announced the selection of our new JetWave-X system. And then with the new system coming online, then we will do one, you know, bring the speed up to 100 Mbps, which is phenomenal. And secondly, we provide customers with multi-constellation access, where they need to choose the constellation over certain airspace, you know, where yield or which provider yield the most and reliable coverage in this over this airspace. So, yeah, I guess in a nutshell, fast is important, but my point is fast, reliable, consistent, and global coverage. 4 elements, I would say, is the key elements to optimal passenger experience.
Can I add a take to that? So, yeah, I mean, as a satellite provider, we support multi-orbits. That's our plan to do that. You know, the GEO, MEO, LEO things, I agree with Tim that the end customer shouldn't have to worry about that. It turns out that, you know, the best way to deliver that important customer experience is with a network that has sufficient capacity, because it's the capacity that leads to the speed. And the best way to do that is to have a geocentric network that focuses on where people need that capacity, which turns out to be the flight routes from Singapore up through Hong Kong to Beijing, or along the east coast of the US, or around Europe. There's very specific and well-defined and small geographies that need a lot of bandwidth. And then there's the rest of the world that doesn't need very much, and you can reach that with a few other orbits, but GEOs over the high traffic areas are the best way to make sure that we have the capacity to deliver that excellent customer experience on the aircraft.
Just going to sort of add on to that as well, James, you're completely right, but I think that, you know, our sort of slogan is multi-orbit, multi-band. You know, that's how we want to move forward. We're not focusing on on one or the other in particular. It's being able to provide the best communication where we can, whether that be via geostationary satellites, whether that be via MEO or LEO satellites in a particular region. You know, that's what we try to pride ourselves on, as being agnostic, I suppose, as well.
I've got one question before we start talking about cabin interiors, and we will get to that. But, you know, business aviation has always been at the forefront of innovation before the commercial aviation. So I'd just like you to put your forecaster hats on for a minute and say, where do you expect this to be in 10 years or 20 years? What is it going to be out there in the future that customers might want to look forward to? Tom?
Yeah, I'll just go and then pass on the baton. Yeah. Effectively, I mean, there's different licensing and different part numbers and things like that. And obviously, Fabian will know better than I do, and Adam as well. But I mean, I honestly think that you'll basically have what you get at home, what you'll have on an aircraft, whether it be commercial or business aviation. And I think that's just what people have become to expect, personally.
I basically agree with Tom. But I would like to add a few things on top, other than in addition to cabin connectivity. I mean, apparently I don't have, nobody has a crystal ball. But if I picture aviation, business aviation in 10 or 5 years or 10 years, I'll say two parts. One is electrification of propulsion, which is more energy saving, eco-friendly. That means you will have electrified engine and APUs from Honeywell or from other suppliers like Rolls-Royce, name it. So that's one important part. We see a lot of activities in UAV, UAM sector as well, but I guess that's the area that business aviation will go into ahead of commercial airliners. That's just my personal take. The second thing is we're going to see more and more cloud-based computing, AI-driven cockpit, which allows more information to be flown into the pilot, to the cockpit. Pilots will be well informed. They will receive a lot of information, and will be much easier for them to connect to ATC or ground personnel. So that will make the flight easier and safer. So I would just say it's two parts: electrification of the airplane propulsion, and second thing, more AI connected cockpit are the future on top of cabin connectivity.
You know, Motley, over the next 10 years, it's going to be really exciting. So how many of you saw the Star Wars movie where they had the Jedi Council, and there's some people sitting in that circle that are really there and some are not really there, they're holograms? Well, I think the future is going to be 3D holographic immersive experiences replacing video conference calls. And we'll be expecting to do that on aircraft as well. In addition, we'll have aircraft that may not even have windows. And so what you see on the side of the cabin will be generated by data that's showing you what's on the ground or what's in the sky around you. And all that takes a ton of data. So in the satellite realm, what we're doing is we'll have relays between GEOs and LEO satellites by lasers that give much higher bandwidth than even we're doing today with already hundreds of megabits per second to an aircraft. We'll have antennas built in the conformal skin of the aircraft like we're already doing on military aircraft that will allow connectivity to GEO, MEO, LEO satellites. It doesn't matter. It's going to be multi-band, multi-orbit, really truly immersive experiences that I think will blow people's minds if they woke up 10 years from now to see what becomes available.
Interesting.
Nice picture, James, with the Jedi Council. I'll keep that in mind. Molly, you asked what are we going to be in 10 years? I don't know, but if I look back 10 years, I don't know about you guys, I had an iPhone 4 and a BlackBerry, where internet connectivity was a mere disaster, although I liked the BlackBerry back then and thought it was a great achievement. Today I couldn't even read the display anymore, so if I look 10 years back, look 10 years ahead, I think we cannot imagine how much faster technology will pick up, so we will not have these discussions we're having today anymore, I'm pretty sure.
And I grew up with a party line and an old black dial-up, phone. So, yeah.
I think Fabian makes a key point there. From an entertainment perspective, who knows? The commercial market and consumer technology is changing at the minute. Who knows what the end user is going to want to do from an entertainment perspective within the cabin? I think one of the key pieces we're going to do is reduce complexity of our installations, reduce weight, cost saving, fuel saving, ozone benefits, etc., while leveraging consumer technology. So it's going to be an aspect of capability brought onto the aircraft, which can then be integrated without physically being there. I think another huge topic is going to be cabin aesthetic. I think we're going to return to a more design focus within our interiors, where IFE isn't seen, it isn't visible within the cabin, to retain that maximum benefit of the installation while maximizing the benefit within without having to damage the clean lines and beautiful designs of interior designers.
Right, and thank you for bringing up in-flight entertainment, because that's our next topic of where is that market going and what are customers wanting to see in that space. And then we'll talk about cabins. Yes.
Okay, I think really I've just kind of touched on the key point, because this is the direction we are heading at the minute. It is reduction of complexity of systems, offering modular concepts. We receive a high variety of end user expectations and requirements, again in line with consumer and technologies and off-aircraft markets. It's, like I say, something that we are currently focusing on. We're trying to, again, maximize those clean aesthetic looks, offering reduced complexity from an installation perspective, so offering MROs the ability to upgrade zones as opposed to full cabin removals and upgrade sections. So it's really going to be in line with the consumer market, but again, our biggest benefit is going to be alignment with the consumer market and making sure we can make the most of those consumer developments.
Thank you.
I think what the customer really looks at is seamless experience, having the same apps, programs, cloud data, business applications anywhere he sits. So I think that's the next big thing to come. Technology-wise, if I look at recent developments on 4K OLEDs, curved OLEDs, I think that's really a differentiator what we'll see. We're finally moving away from these little bit bigger getting things there in front of my seat. It's going to be a real new dimension, I think.
Yeah, the only thing that I suppose I'll add into that as well is that another part of the acquisition that's allowed us access to is Gogo's in-flight entertainment system, which is what we call Vision 360. But the really exciting thing with that is that what we're trying to do is that, for instance, just take the APAC market, for instance. We're trying to give you access to whatever content that you want to see around the world. If you're in Singapore and you want to watch, US content, that's fine. If you're in Australia but you want to watch Korean content, that's also fine. That's one thing that we're trying to work on in the background. So we're really excited about being able to offer that as a value add as well, to give owners wherever they live, or charterers, whoever they may be, access to the content that they actually want to watch. So that's exciting for us.
When you look inside the cabin, you mentioned that people are wanting to go back to designs and that. Let's talk about sustainability. Are customers wanting sustainable seats and sustainable sidewalls, or what's happening in that space?
We see a lot of interest in pre-used recycled material, bamboo, artificial leather. People want different, more sustainable products. Frankly speaking, the VIP business market is not the one that's too much focused on fuel savings at the moment, is my perception. Maybe it lies in the art of the business. Nevertheless, for example, we have developed the AeroShark, which is a foil you apply outside on the 777, which reduces the fuel burn by 1.5% to 2%, which is a lot if you fly long haul on the 777. We're about to apply it to other platforms. And that brings an interesting aspect for business and VIP aircraft, because it will extend the reach of your aircraft. So I think it goes from different angles. Other than that, health issues become bigger. There's more and more customers that want gym, massage rooms, personal safety and health things. These are things we have not really seen 5 or 10 years ago.
How do you future-proof a cabin? What sorts of things should a customer think about when they design a new airplane, or they're buying used and want to refurbish it? How do you future-proof it for, the next few years, or 10 years, or 20 years?
It depends what you mean by future-proof. I think on the material itself used, as they're all certified, as there's a very lengthy process to get this stuff in the aircraft, it's really up to the manufacturer and the completion center to outfit that. I think a bigger topic will be on technical stuff, the availability, that you don't run into obsolescence and have to do retrofits because your products are no longer available. And in the end, I mean, we're a small consumer of chips. The biggest amount of electronics is used by other industries, so we're kind of a follower in aviation.
Just jumping in there, every customer want to have a long-lasting product. And then, a lot of OEMs like us, we want to future-proof everything. But, for cabin connectivity, the short answer is no, we cannot future-proof. And because our customers deserve better every day. Because the dynamics shifts every day. We're talking about Starlink today, and probably 3 years ago, nobody was talking about Starlink, right? And then now we're talking about the a data rate, high speed, quality services. So I guess for us, in the case of Honeywell, try to future-proof is that we try to keep the work, we try to minimize the change or the downtime. That's how we try to future-proof. But we keep innovating our product and rolling out new products because our customers deserve better products and better performance. What we trying to do is, a lot of customers, in case of JetWave to JetWave X, the majority of the customers, they get to retain the existing wiring. So they just need to swap in, swap out the LRUs, box in, box out, simple as that. But again, a lot of times it's tougher in individual cases. But yeah, it's kind of my take.
Tim, can I help you with your answer there? Because I think your answer is yes, and you said it in a different way. It's like when you go from your JetWave, which you introduced 8 years ago, to JetWave X coming out this year, you can reuse that wiring. That's a form of future-proofing. And whether a customer's putting on JetWave X or Viasat KA or PSKA, those will work on satellites that are launching this year that will last for 18 years. And so they're going to have a long life in front of them if they want to maintain those systems for a long time. So it helps, I think, operators to think, man, if I put one of these systems on today, am I going to have to change it out in 2 or 3 years? And the answer is no. I mean, you're set for a long time.
Tom, did you want to add something?
The only other thing I was going to add on there as well is that, again, one thing that we are trying to do is make sure that our hardware works with different frequencies, different networks as well. So if we, activate something on a KU frequency, can we then, without minimal downtime, can we then change that to a KA system? Can we have that work off a LEO? Does it, when Amazon comes into play, is that something we can use as well? So that's the way that we're trying to future-proof, is just be completely agnostic so that we can use anything and everything effectively.
Well, I have a question about MRO. The next session's on the MRO industry, but I wanted to ask you all, what kind of downtimes are you finding, or how far in advance do you have to make reservations to get systems in place, installation time? Whoever wants to maybe jump in there, James?
So I can speak for experience from our ACJ and BBJ business, where people might want Viasat connectivity on with a fuselage mount. Because the airlines do that so repetitively, we can do a BBJ in a week if it's just the connectivity. Now, obviously, Fabian's looking at me like, what? That's good, you know, a year-long job for, but that's if you're redoing the whole interior. But when it comes to a business jet like a Gulfstream or Bombardier or something like that, it's typically in the 3 to 4 week range in the aftermarket of downtime. And I think you should wait till your next panel to talk about lead times, because that's a whole nother issue. But 3 to 4 weeks of downtime is what we're seeing for the hardware.
I can just add real quick. A lot of variables in the mix. You know, which aircraft type do you operate? Like, which product are you trying to install? But I can speak to Honeywell JetWave. On business jet, it takes around 3 to 4 weeks, and then I mean it's not short, but it's can be done in a C check, a big check, and then from JetWave to JetWave-X, like I mentioned, it does not change the current wiring. So the expectation is within 1 week.
What is it like getting the STCs for the equipment? Is that process difficult or lengthy, or how, or does it depend on where you are?
I mean, at this moment in time, the STCs that we're working on, it has been, you know, like many things in aviation, pushed back a little bit, because obviously there's so many stringent sort of rules and red tapes that you have to, you know, go through and make sure that everybody's happy. But, you know, I think that people like EASA and the FAA are also doing the right things. They're also, you know, they're making things a little bit more strict in terms of how things get their approval. I mean, for instance, with our new stuff, it's, you know, having the extra bird strike data that we needed for the hardware and things like that, which, you know, yes, it might have pushed us back a couple of weeks, maybe 3-4 weeks, but ultimately we still need to make sure that the customer and their aircraft are going to be safe when they install our hardware. So, yeah.
So we have time for about one more question. We've got about 5 minutes left. I wanted to talk about supply chain for a minute. What are you finding in the supply chain? Is that one of your biggest challenges, or how is that going, Fabian?
Overall, supply chain has never been such a problem. We really expected the supply chain to recover much faster. We think it's going to last another 2 to 3, 4 years for the commercial market. We see lead times on technologies for a year and a half. That should be 90 days. The problem is there's always one limiting factor, especially seats is a problem at the moment for cabin completions. As I know, IFC is not the biggest problem at the moment, so it's always who's the slowest and the last one you shoot at. If there's somebody else slower, you're not the problem, but overall, it really needs planning. It's just not, you put money on the table, things are there, it just doesn't work like this. There's other demands dipping that from defense, from other effects, from space, and there's certain key technologies which are just not available, and we just have to look at the engine business. That's a pretty complete nightmare at the moment.
Right, I had an OEM executive tell me one time, it's like, well, supply chain's getting better, but you need all the parts. So,
it's a nice way to put it, yeah.
you need all of them. And then just lastly, just real quickly, what's the most unique request you've ever had?
Good one.
Can you talk about it?
Yeah. We've had a very lengthy discussion with a customer that really wanted a jacuzzi in his plane, which is, I don't know, 2,500 liters of uncontained water. You cannot contain it ahead of your on eBay. It's really about culture and communication, because the customer was perceiving it as a commercial negotiations. It took us some time to convince him it's not about money. We just can't do it because the FAA and the EASA wouldn't approve it. And then he asked how much we had to pay the EASA, and we said, no, you don't pay the EASA at all. I will not forget that one. And we had a customer from Africa who had the expectation that he would get a new cabin for wide-body aircraft in 2 weeks. Realistic time is 15 months, 18 months. And a colleague of mine made a very convincing bridging relating to the most important and most admired item in this country, which is an elephant. And an elephant takes 18 months to deliver as well. So that's how they found their way together, and saying the best things just take time. But sometimes you have to go these ways, yes.
And that's the elephant in the room. Go ahead.
I think from an IFE perspective, I'd like to go the other way. So it's not the latest developments. With the best request that I've received was the integration of a VCR system into the latest IFE. From a generational perspective, the principal was an older gentleman. he had a video collection, and he wanted to watch his video collection in his bedroom during flight. So, yeah, that was one of our best pieces to put into the aircraft.
I've got some tapes I could give him.
You lend them to him.
Tom, did you?
Yeah, the only, and there's a few that I can't mention, but I think one that made me laugh is one of our guys in the UK had a gentleman stop over for a very short period of time, and he said, you know, how much is this going to cost? And he said, well, what do you want to do? And he just went, just like sort of picked one, and it was like 25, 30,000 a month. He was like, do you mind me asking what do you want it for? Just so my wife can play Candy Crush, and she can rewind our lives when she's up in the air, so she can still play Candy Crush. That was the craziest one I've had, without mentioning the other one.
That's awesome, Tim.
Well, I wouldn't say this one is one of the craziest ones, but I would say this one is, you know, quite impressive in the past 2 years. You know, we got a customer, we can't reveal the name or aircraft type, but they came to us and asked about a 2-month contract on Honeywell system. So it's a KA band provided by Viasat. So we asked them, you know, why specifically 2 months? So they went, you know, we just need 2 months to test the system, and the principal will be flying heavily in the 2 months, and after that, we'll be installing Starlink. I would say, wait, what? Wait a minute. So I wouldn't go on with this conversation, but eventually they signed a contract with us, which is more than 2 months, definitely.
Thanks. Well, I think we're running out of time, so I want to thank you all for being here, and I want to thank our wonderful panelists for their insights and all of their experiences. So thank you very, very much.
Yes, give a round of applause for our panelists and Molly. Thank you very much, Molly, for moderating that panel.